I get a lot of questions about which camera is the best for vlogging, and it's not a really simple answer. So I've decided to make a video with all of my cameras. I'm gonna show you the video quality and the usability so that you can decide which one looks the best for you. This is gonna be a nightmare to edit. So let's start first with the most obvious camera, which is the smartphone. Everybody has that in their pocket, and it's a usable and pretty much okay vlogging camera. Then we'll move on to action cameras, to a 360 camera, to a dedicated vlogging camera, and finally to a lens interchangeable full frame camera, which is by far the most expensive of the bunch. Now I'm gonna be honest, I don't think I've ever made a video with my smartphone before. Well, actually that's not true. I did make a few videos in the beginning, and well, the whole creation process is pretty much the same like on every other camera. You record a video, you edit it out, and then you export it to a final video result. The smartphone is limiting when it comes to frame rates, resolutions, and most importantly, the bit color depth and well, the whole ability to use a log picture profile. Now some of that can be solved by using third-party camera apps on your smartphone, but you'll never really get a cinematic shot with a smartphone because there's no real motion blur and no real shallow depth of field. Well, at least not on my smartphone, the S24 from Samsung. Now also what I don't like about, well, smartphone recording is that if I want to see myself, I have to use the front camera, which isn't wide enough, at least not on my phone, and it's not the best quality. And the back camera is better quality, it's wider, but I don't see myself, I don't see what I'm recording, and it's a really weird feeling if you don't see what you're actually recording. Next up is the mighty action camera. I have the Insta360 Ace Pro 2 as well as the DJI Osmo Action 4. Now, I prefer the Osmo Action 4's video quality and look more, so I will be making the video with this because it's 10-bit, it has D-Log M, and it's a whole fun for color grading, but that's for a more advanced user. Maybe, I don't know. Now an action camera seems like an obvious choice for vlogging. It's wide enough, it's robust, it's weather resistant, you can use it in snow, underwater, and it has a decent video quality. But you're not in focus if you're holding it too close. You have to really hold it far away for you to actually be in focus, because it has an infinity focus, so everything far away is always in focus and things that are close are not. Well, you know, I made a video on this topic as well if you want to check it out. Now, but because it's an action camera, you also have limitations with that motion blur and, well, depth of field. So everything's always in focus and there's practically no motion blur. You have to use ND filters on a static camera at least, but if the camera is moving and shaking, then that electronic stabilization is going to mess things up. So you can't really get any real cinematic shots. It's also way too wide for cinema, video creation. Next I have the interesting but a lot of work in post 360 camera. This has to be the most versatile camera of them all today. It's not really cinematic, but you can get some really creative shots with this. Not that I can actually show you any of my 360 creative shots because I don't have any. Now, I would definitely recommend this for bikers, for skiers, or for anybody who has fast motion in their life because it's really easy to use. You just record the video and reframe in post. But make sure not to damage the lenses because they are very vulnerable. Now, on the X5 you can replace them, but still, if you damage them on the road, yeah, you're gonna end up with some really broken videos. But it is a nightmare to edit this because you have to edit twice. Once for the reframing and the other time for the actual video edit. I made a whole video on this topic, you can watch it over here. And all the limitations are also there. So electronic stabilization, no motion blur if you want to have good stabilization, just like with action cameras. And the low light video quality isn't as good, no matter what the brands say. If you guys haven't seen my website yet, make sure to click the link in the description, and recently I've added a store button where you will find all of my used gear that I'm currently selling. Now the list will grow as time passes, but you can check out the items that are already there, so give it a click and enjoy. Now we come to the actual dedicated vlogging camera, the DJI Pocket 3. I would say that this is the most vlogging-oriented camera because it is not an action camera. It has a gimbal, which means that it is really stable and it doesn't require electronic stabilization. Which basically means that you can use ND filters with this alongside with that 1/50th of a second shutter speed, because if you want to have the nice motion blur for 24, 25 or 30 frames per second, well, you need to slow down the shutter speed to 1/50th. But on action cameras that have electronic stabilization, that poses a problem because you will get jitters in the highlights. Here, with the gimbal, not an issue. It also features the biggest sensor up to this point. It's a 1-inch type sensor, which means that it's really good in low light. Now, this isn't as wide as an action camera, but nothing goes wider than this. But paired with a wide-angle lens, you can get some, well, decent enough handheld vlogging shots with the Pocket 3. And it's always going to be stable because it has a gimbal, which is way better than any other electronic stabilization. Plus, it has autofocus, so the subject or you are always going to be in focus, and you can actually blur the background a little bit, especially if you're not using the wide-angle lens. But because this camera has a gimbal, you can actually track yourself with the gimbal. Now, you cannot do that on an action camera, but you can do that on a 360 camera, because I can go around and around. But this is just way better because it's full resolution gimbal tracking, and it's just way better this way. Now, you can also use ND filters. You can slow the shutter speed down to that 1/50th of a second because there is no shaking, because the gimbal acts instead of that electronic stabilization. So for full cinema on a small camera, this is probably the best one so far. So now we finally come to the best of the bunch, the mighty full-frame camera with interchangeable lenses. This is by far the best video quality performance, and the fact that you can change lenses actually gives you the ability to create some really cinematic shots. But it is by far the most expensive of all other cameras, and it pretty much requires a separate microphone, which is yet another investment. So a microphone like this or a microphone like this, but the ability to change the lenses is by far the best thing of this camera. And of course, creativity and storytelling goes a long way with that. So you've seen the footage from all 5 cameras, and the question is, which one is the best for vlogging? They all have their strengths and weaknesses. Action cameras or not in focus, 360 cameras or a lot of work in post, and a smartphone is, well, a smartphone. The full-frame camera has interchangeable lenses, but you also need a microphone. It's not weatherproof or waterproof, but it does give you the best possible looking image. But you have to know a thing or two about cameras if you want to squeeze out everything from a full-frame camera. So we end up with the Pocket 3. It also has its limitations. It's very fragile because of the gimbal. It's not weather resistant or waterproof, but it does have autofocus, and because of that mechanical stabilization, you can use ND filters, get the cinematic motion blur, and if you pair it with a wide-angle lens that DJI also provides, you can get a decent enough looking handheld vlogging footage. Plus, it's 10-bit colors and D-Log M, so if you want to match the footage to other cameras that also have log, well, then it's very easy to do. It is a bit more advanced skill, but I have no problem matching my Pocket 3 to, let's say, the Sony A7IV, which is a full-frame camera with a proper S-Log3 picture profile, so I can match them up really easy. And even if you have a DJI drone that shoots with D-Log M, then you can match all the cameras together. Which kind of brings me to the conclusion of this video, which is that, the Osmo Pocket 3 from DJI is currently the best vlogging camera that you can buy. It holds a lot of things that full-frame cameras have, and it's not as expensive as a full-frame camera. So there you have it. I hope this helped and you got a view from each type of camera, basically what type of footage you can expect and how they look when you're doing a vlog. But in the end, the only thing that really matters is the story that you have to tell, and the best camera is always the one that you currently have. So if it's a smartphone, then start with the smartphone and then later upgrade to something like a Pocket 3 or maybe even a full-frame camera. So thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button for the algorithm, leave a comment down below below if you have any questions, and well, consider subscribing if you're new to the channel. And if you want to stay on the channel, then watch this video next. Thank you. I'll see you in this one. Bye bye.